We are in intermediate.
Okay.
So intermediate that we worked out that my left is my left and my right is my right. And it wasn't
That's
looking like that on the
intermediate?
other cameras. Yeah, I know, right? You wouldn't think so, would you?
Where do you want to sit, Min? You want to sit on the couch?
I'm going to run, but thanks, Daniele.
Okay, we'll turn it
Yeah,
around.
thank you. I think my mind might explode if I stay for the second half. Sorry, but thank you.
No, up to you. At least we worked out this hand situation.
Yes.
I'm going to be confused, though, I reckon. But I can deal with the confusion.
Good luck.
All right, friends. We'll just keep chatting about life. Any more questions where we just left off?
No, that's good. I think that sort of
So I might touch on everyone's leaving.
I don't know if this is relevant to anyone else, but I had some questions about minor keys.
Yep, great.
And how to tell the difference, like when writing, because I'm doing like this pleb little notebook, workbook.
Yep.
And like which minor keys you raise the seventh, because I know there's like harmonic minor and natural minor, and I got very confused trying to work through that yesterday. Yes.
It was always good to revise on minor keys. So let's what do we use? Let's use D major as our reference, okay? Because remember that every major key has a neighboring minor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a minor third below, built on the 6th degree. So we've got B minor. So that's our first minor, and that's what we refer to as the natural minor. Okay? So natural minor has no altered notes, and it has the exact same ingredients as the relative major key. How are you going with that?
So the same sharps.
Did I say ingredients or building blocks, or like I like to use those kind of terms.
As in like the same scale degrees, sort of?
Same
tone, semitone.
Building blocks. Not the formula.
Okay.
Because the formula is going to be inherently different because we're playing the notes in different order.
Yeah.
But when I say building blocks, scale degrees, you're right, and I understand what you're saying there. When I think of a key, I just think of a bunch of blocks, that are played together, and then we get the sound of D major. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So each of those notes, each scale degree is like a building block. If I play the notes from B to B, but use the same components or blocks or whatever, then that's my natural minor. So I don't have to alter anything. I just have to play the notes of D major. But I have to begin on B and end on B.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Now
you've got the same key signature, same sharps.
Yeah,
so
same
you're
key
gonna have
signature,
F sharp
exactly.
and C sharp in your D major, as well as your B minor.
Yep, and that's really worth noting. Of course, and I know like most common practice will actually relate it to the parallel major. So we haven't really touched too much on that, but the B minor, when I'm talking about parallel, I'm actually referring to the note, the same home bass. So that's B minor, and when I talk about B major, and some people might say play B parallel minor, but that's just effectively B minor. But it's getting down a weird rabbit hole. Sometimes people will refer to the minor related to the parallel major as opposed to the relative major. So they'll actually refer to as 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 3. What are we up to? Flat 6, flat 7. So that's related to its parallel major. So that's how I alter the B major scale to get a B minor scale. Did that destroy you? The thing is, I just prefer relating it to I prefer using the relative major than the parallel major. Okay, so you can have C major. You can have C parallel minor. It's just starting on the same note.
Okay,
but
no, I get it.
It's just a different way in. You start to refer it as flat 3, flat 6, flat 7. But this is the thing with theory. It's just there's so many different ways you can enter into the same content. But let's answer your question about harmonics and harmonic minor and whatnot. So as I said, natural minor is the minor scale that's built on the 6th degree of the major scale. Okay, so B is the 6th degree of the D major scale. Yep, same building components. When I raise the 7th, I get a harmonic minor. 1, 2. So there's my harmonic. Yep. Gonna pull my backup keyboard just in case. Okay. Melodic minor is our third one. So we raise the 6th and the 7th, going up. You notice, those playing at home, the last half of that going up is actually the B major scale. Okay, that's good if you want to play jazz, because commonly jazz musician will keep those notes on the way back. But from a theoretical standpoint, you go B minor, sharp 6, sharp 7, and then back the natural. You just back into the natural minor.
And
Was
that's
that one called?
melodic.
Melodic.
You couldn't see it
Melodic
going, but you
minor.
know that like goes B, could you?
Yeah, B and G instead of B, A sharp, G sharp.
We'll look at a few more scales there.
Mm-hmm.
But does that clarify the principles behind it?
Yeah. So
like
the
you have
natural
an idea, you could have.
natural minor is like the first one that we did was same sharps or flats as the major key. Yeah, that's the built on the 6th.
Yep.
Yeah.
And harmonic. And then melodic. And then jazz melodic.
Pretty.
Yeah, it's very romantic. All right, you want to talk about 2-5-1s?
Yes.
Why not?
Or is that going to get too
this might
complex?
serve you back if you're interested in composition.
Okay.
Let's see how we go. I want to see how Aisha and Mininka go as well.
I was looking at them yesterday.
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Jeez.
But cool. No, I like it.
A little bit about chord progressions and chord voicings, and
Cool.
so basically, they're in. So first and foremost, in classical music, there is inherent. You can still hear me if I talk.
You need to be a bit closer.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Closer.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Get a more sensitive microphone. So in classical music, generally there's an inherent relationship between the 1 and the 5. Scale degree 1, scale degree 5. Okay. Go to 5 chord. Okay. All I'm doing is playing the scale, but I'm changing the bass notes. Now there's also a little development here. I can go from the 5 to the 4. Or I can go 1, 4, 5.
Is that all to do with the bass, the left hand?
It's me. Yeah, I'm changing. So in order to give your ears context, I'm playing a 1, 5, and 3 in the left hand.
So C, G,
Just-
and then
So okay, 1, 5, and then 3. You'll generally see strings or string quartet kind of harmonized in that kind of fashion. Doo-da. Does that make sense? So that's just to give you a bit. You don't have to play it like that. It's just to give your ears some context as to how I'm moving the chords. You know, you could play it like this. But I'm just trying to give you a bit of context whilst I play this. Trying to indicate that I can play any melody. So, you know, maybe the strings, you know, cello, violin, viola doing that, and then the violin's just going, you know. So the relationship of the melody can be changed. The feeling of the melody can be changed by the chords playing underneath. So I guess the main take home there is that there is inherent our primary chords 1, 4, and 5 throughout the past several hundred years, they are the sort of the pillars of, you know, modern contemporary music, also a lot of classical music. Okay, so there's an inherent relationship there. It's just that and to I'm going to refer to this in very much layman's terms just to begin with. From a jazz perspective, we're going to change our 4 chord to a 2 chord. That's what we might refer to as a substitution. And then all of a sudden we get a sound that might just sound a little less classical. You know, it's all building blocks, okay? So yeah, so I just went 1, 2, 5, 1. So that's what we call a substitution. So when you're working with a 4 chord, you can actually instead play a 2 chord. And you're still getting the same context, because you look at an F major chord, and then you look at a D minor chord. They have 2 related notes. So it's not always a rule of thumb, but in this case, they can be substituted. Okay. So, you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally in a jazz context, I'm only playing the 1 chord just to give your ears a bit of context. But generally when I'm referring to the 2-5-1, we actually begin on the 2. So 2, 5, 1. Because the 1 is a tonic. The one's indicating that the song's probably ended. Of course, then you can build another 2-5. And then you can build another 2-5. So all I'm doing is just stepping down. So I can use that progression to kind of transpose to new keys. I just got a little bit advanced then to cycle through.
Saying 2-5-1, you'd use that to change keys.
You can use it to modulate. Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's so many different progressions that you can use to modulate or change keys. But in so much jazz repertoire, you'll have that sound. And it just kind of steps down because they were experimenting a lot with the 2-5, and sometimes they won't make their way to the 1, you know. Now I'm in E flat. C minor. Picardy 3rd. That's when we resolved the major instead of the minor.
So
cool. Anyway,
John, so I was looking at All of Me yesterday, just as a song.
What key were you looking at it?
In C major. So I think it's the original key. Is that the same one?
I'll find it. I've just got so many of them.
And so,
yeah.
Are you talking to us?
Yes. Sorry. You go.
Right.
Yeah, go.
Oh, cool. You've got it written. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is top of it.
I've got a C major version somewhere. I just can't find it.
That's all right.
This is in G.
I was just getting confused because for instance, my chart says C major 7 and it goes into E7, but then that's like completely out of the C major scale. That's where
Correct. Yeah, and then it probably goes to an A minor or an A7 or something. No, is it?
Yeah. E minor.
And then what was that?
E7. A minor.
G7.
G7. Yeah.
You know, so the sort of take-home principle is we've got we've got 1 chords and we have 5 chords. Everything in between is just prolonging that relationship between the 1 and the 5. Okay, so we've got this song that begins in C, root position. Great. We're gonna eventually get to A7, right? But we got to take one step before we get to A7. So it's interesting. It's not in the key of C at all, but what we're getting here is actually, and this is, I'll feature the information. We'll see how we go. It is the 5 of 5, okay, which we get in a lot of music. So a lot of jazz music. So for example, 5 of 5 is in C. So I'm in C. Say I want to play 5 of 5 here. Now 5 in C major is G. Okay, so I'm going to play the 5 of 5. So C first. 5 of G major is D. And then I'm going to go to G7. And then back to C. This is a little bit complex, but I want to see if I can kind of feed you a bit of information that will assist you. So firstly, we are definitely in a different key. The E7 is serving to modulate us to the A chord. But there is a distinction between an A major and an A dominant 7, as I referred to in the past couple of weeks. So that A, when you see a dominant 7 chord, okay, now in this case, the first dominant 7 chord you see is an E7. Okay, it's a dominant 7 because there's no major indicated. And there's a -7 interval between the 1 and the 7. Yeah?
So the minor is the third there.
Yeah, so we've got the -7, and then we've got the E major chord with a -7 on top. So that's a dominant chord. Whenever we have a dominant chord, dominant chords have a direct pull. The dominant chords are also referred to as 5 chords, as 5 chords, which is to say the 5th scale degree in a scale is referred to the dominant, okay? And dominant chords or dominant keys or dominant scale degrees have an inherent pull to their 1 counterpart. And that's sort of the main, very basic fundamental principle there, is that when you see a dominant chord, it is trying to pull you back to its 1 home.
Yes, okay.
So 1, C major, that is a tonic chord. It has no dominant interval in there. Okay, the dominant interval is the -7. Okay, it's just a C major chord. It is home base. It is where I live. It's a great time. Okay, now I'm going to go over a little bit to my G7, which has a dominant 7 in there. And that dominant 7 it is the 5th of C major, and it belongs to C major. Okay, and it wants, especially if I alter it even more, it wants to pull back. But a lot of jazz compositions and good compositions in general will put more dominant chords to keep throwing off the scent of home bass. Okay, so in the setting of All of Me, we've got All of Me, why not take E7? All of me. That E7, what key does it relate to?
A minor.
A. Yeah, actually it relates to the key of A. So E7 exists in the key of A. So just in the key of A major. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So we want to go back to A major. The ear actually wants to hear just tonic, done, the end. But it actually goes to an A7 flat 9 or something, doesn't it? take all of me. You know, so even then, it goes to another dominant chord. So it's still not going to home bass. It's going to another dominant. It's tricking you. It makes you think because it's an A, it's home bass. But that dominant 7, da 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 da, D minor. Because A is 5 away from D minor. But
Yes.
not only that, the D minor is not a one tonic chord. Because we'd actually want to hear die, 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 da at the end, okay? D minor is actually throwing the cent off again. D minor is actually a 2 chord, okay? Die, 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 da.
And is
Are
this
we
so?
gonna
Is
next?
this? I mean,
Yeah.
the thing I get confused about is it's not related back to the C, is it?
It'll eventually get to C, but at the moment, it's taking you down a few different alleyways.
Mm, okay.
So correct. It's not related to the C. And when you're actually wanting to work on improv, you know, and once we're getting a bit advanced, so thanks for.
I just want to ask a question.
Yeah, of course.
So I was having this conversation with my brother-in-law, Lynch's husband.
Great.
I just thought like there was a difference between dominant chords and dominant sevenths, and he was just saying all dominants are dominant sevenths, but
Correct.
so somewhere along the line with my music theory, I don't know where I've missed that, but I thought like you could have just say you're in C major, you could just, you know, have your tonic C, E, G, and then G, C, G, G, B, D. But does it always have to have the 7, G, B, D, F?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit. So up to the D, it's just a major 9. But you're referring to the F. Were you?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you were to go 1, 5, 1.
Oh, 1, 5, 1. Yep.
C, E, G. And
Yep.
Can't you ever just do G, B, D as a chord without the 7th? Like.
You mean just like this, yeah?
1, 5, 1.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I'm really confused.
It's the tricky thing is that both of you are correct. Like this G chord in the key of C major is a dominant chord. Okay?
Yes.
But in the grand scheme of things, and generally even like in classical music, the 7th, that flattened 7 will feature in some way, shape or form to draw us back to the 1, therefore making it a dominant 7 chord. But in a theoretical concept, we can still refer to it as a dominant chord because it's functioning like a dominant. And when we talk about functioning, especially I'm sure you've spoken about this with him as well, we have to, when I refer to functioning, it's about what is the feature of this chord. Now, right now, when I hear this, I've been playing in C major for a lot of, like 5 minutes, and then you hear this G major, I don't incorporate the dominant 7, and I just play it as a G. It's functioning as a dominant.
Yeah.
Because actually, it wants my ear to come back to the 1. So that's its job at that point. Okay? Now, generally though, the tricky thing is that depends what precedes it and what comes after it, because then it could actually turn into a tonic. And that's where the distinction goes. Like where does the composition go? Like if I played a C to a D, this has become a tonic chord now because I use the dominant of G to move to G. Oh, my app just shut down. So that's what I'm referring to as how's the chord functioning? Because at that point in time, I went from a D7 to a G, and we're still in the key of C.
Yeah.
But the G then is actually already pulled upon its own dominant chord.
Yeah.
And has created a new home bass momentarily.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But in its foundational terms, in its purity, like if you can really distill music down to its, tension release, tonic and dominant, like you're constantly trying to find ways to distill things to those two fine components. And good composition will really take you off the scent and sort of hide tonics and dominants and kind of make you think that you're leading down a pathway and then create more tension and then release it again. So yeah, you're definitely not wrong. You know, it's just a different, it's sort of different perspective, I guess.
But I'm just saying, you know, when you see chord progression, can't you just have like 1, 5, 1? Or do you always have to have the 1,
Correct.
5, 7?
I think that at that point it depends on context.
Okay.
I think, you know, if you're playing a pop song,
yeah,
definitely just make it triadic. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at pop songs like maybe like Sarah Bareilles, they're a bit more nuanced, you know, and she'll incorporate some sevenths, she'll incorporate some, you know, A7 to D minus sort of business. But definitely, you don't have to incorporate the minor 7.
Yeah, okay.
Not at all. But it's all about style. Like, it's all about context.
Yeah.
All these questions, and that's the thing with theory, isn't it? It's like, it all will take a different shape depending on what world you're going to work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, generally in a jazz context, you will have that flattened 7.
Well, that's the thing. So my brother-in-law is a jazz musician and I'm a classic musician. So that's probably, I'm like, oh, hang on.
Yeah, exactly. It's two sides of the coin. The beautiful thing is that I believe that you can draw from both worlds. You know, you just have to dig deep enough into either composition and you'll find, like for me, the romanticism and, you know, European music and like, you know, Ravel and Debussy and those compositions really bridge the gap between, you know, the real classical sound and jazz. And that's why I'm so interested in orchestration as to like how to build colors across an orchestra, you know, and that sort of romanticism of it all. I'm interested to hear more about your discussions.
Yeah. I have another question, but I don't know.
Yeah, go for it.
About
give it a go, and I'll see if I can answer it.
We went over the diminished sevenths, and that's the other thing. Like the other day, and just say we've got like flat, G flat, B flat, and you said something about an interrupt dominant. So then you've got like F7.
Yep.
And then what I'm presuming is that home tonic is then B flat. Is that right?
If I play an F7 with the flat 9, sorry, you cut out a little bit, but if I play an F7 with the diminished chord,
I was just wondering,
or just F7,
like to the tonic key. Like, so if you've got C, E flat, G flat, and double B flat as your diminished 7, what key does that belong to?
Oh, this guy here. Is that right? Yeah. So diminished chords are so funny. To be honest, they're the most ambiguous of chords, and even many jazz musicians have a struggle to find where the tonic is, like where they belong. They're the most ambiguous, and I understand. Like even I continue to struggle to completely fully understand where they come from. Now, of course,
I have to explain that to my violin students rather than just going, "Here's a diminished 7th." Full stop.
What? Yeah. Well,
what's its role?
What's its role? That's such an interesting question, because then if they have an interest in, for me, like what's its role? Like when I approach music, I just want to continue to find different shapes and different sounds and different feelings, you know. So when I started playing the piano, it's like, oh, diminished chord, great. You know, I'm gonna make really eerie music. You know, that's quite interesting for me. I also know that nowadays when I'm playing a lot of musical theatre pieces, the diminished chord is highly functions quite a lot. Now you did mention F7, I believe. So if we think about this C diminished, it absolutely can feature into it can interrupt or delay the F7 chord, because all it is I'm playing is an F7 with a flattened 9. But you notice that the diminished chord doesn't know what it is until there's something around it, until there's context. That being said, you know, all of a sudden I've descended into the depths of hell, you know, with a pedal. but that's pure diminished. Okay, so that's like in a more of like a kind of a, I guess, a classical world. Trying to think of other ways. There is that, as I said to you, that diminished chord can relate to a particular dominant chord. So C full diminished can relate to F7 because it includes the flat 9. So if the bass player is going C to an F, then I'm going to go to a B flat. I believe this is actually going to resolve to a B flat minor.
Yeah.
Mainly due to that flat 9 indicates that I'm in a minor key. In musical theatre, a lot of classic stuff. You know, that sort of upward stepping motion. So that in that way, it can prolong the tonic. Singing a note on the tonic, you know, but also the functioning of the tonic. So F major chord, functioning as home bass. I don't want my song to just keep playing with the one chord, so I'm actually going to play a diminished chord a semitone above. It just slightly elongates the tonic in this case. So I guess the main take home there is that it's a bit of a chameleon. It can prolong the dominant, prolong the tonic. It can be just an effect, as I said, you know, there. Aside from that, it's also, I know for a piano, like stepping through your diminished chords is actually just incredibly good for your finger isolation. So just doing that, because it's such a weird shape underneath the hands, it's actually incredible for finger isolation. I'm still hunting for the reasons, though, I'll be honest. Not the reasons, but like everything's a question, right? Even from an orchestration perspective, you know, I go, okay, how do I want to voice this diminished chord without hammering home that's a diminished chord? You know, I want to find the most tasteful way.
Is I do a lot of transcriptions. So
yes.
And then if I have to write chords out, then I get stuck on my diminished seventh of what do I make?
Sure, yeah.
Note do
I mean, look.
What's its role? And it's like I could pick 4 of those notes, you know?
Correct, because they're symmetrical.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd have to look at what the bass is doing.
Yeah.
More often than not, if they're just there in space, just kind of feeling a bit ambiguous, they're generally just leading you somewhere. Generally. You know, there I've just used my E flat diminished to take me to a first inversion C major. You know. That's very kind of New Orleans sort of. You know, that kind of feeling. Yeah, lots to be said.
I think a lot of those, like looking at like that, and then also the 2-5-1, all the jazz things. It's all in. It depends on where it's going to within context of the song.
Correct.
So that's
it's all about the relationship.
Yeah, I think it's the relationship from the prior chord or the one following. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll if there's something that you're looking at as well, Melini, we can sort of pull it up and sort of dissect it as well. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about relationship and context. You know, context is not just the relationship. Context is the style, the mood of the piece. Like, whereas, in classical versus jazz, it's all going to be very different. But where it's coming from is super important. Hence why just drawing the basic understanding, like I just want to keep coming back to that basic idea of tonic and dominant. And then everything in between is just delaying that. You know, everything is just prolonging dominant or prolonging tonic. So the simplicity of just 1 and 5, tension and release. Diminished chords are just there to kind of make things a little bit more interesting. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up for today.
Right.
Hope you've had a good time talking jazz.
Thanks.
Slightly more advanced, but I don't know. Here we are. That's what we're here to do.
I took you maybe doing all of me did that. Sorry. I was just trying to understand.
It's a good piece. It's quite a nice piece. It's a nice simple piece to even just pick apart some of the chords. So
yeah.
I know, but Beck, for you, we haven't, you know, I don't know what your jazz prospects are in your life. But,
we can focus on what you want to do next.
I can say, you know, it all sort of, look, when I studied jazz, you know, meanwhile, I only studied it for like 3 months or something in my course, so it's such a short period of time. But then you spend pretty much all the rest of your time studying it anyway, because it informs a lot of contemporary pop music, even if you don't use it. You know, harmonizing between a G to an A minor, for example. You know, that's my sort of bit romantic version, but then I can a bit more of a pop version, or I can get more of a gospel version. You know, so it's all sort of, you might sort of think that you don't need it, but it kind of informs things a little bit. Anyway, in my opinion.
Thanks,
Daniele. All right, friends, I'm going to grab some food. Definitely lunchtime. And I will see you tomorrow for another session. All right, another beginner session tomorrow, and then I'll probably review things next week. All right, bye, friends.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye, girls.
Bye.